This is a Minecraft creeper. You know him, you hate him, unless he's making fireworks for you. But instead of exploding Steve, he's going to explode the opposition while trying to dribble past their defenders as a shadow striker, because you never know when he will end your hardcore world. All other Minecraft mobs joined the creeper, decided to become footballers and join Hammarby IF in the Swedish top flight. They're located in Stockholm, just like Mojang's headquarters. The mobs have one goal: to win the UEFA Champions League. We will simulate the save into the future to find out if the mobs will achieve that goal, and their manager is going to be Steve, assisted by Alex. But let's meet our squad first. I could only limit the amount of mobs to 25. That's because you haven't subscribed to the channel. And on a real note, it's because of the UEFA rules that only allow this many players, and because this squad is deemed to be too big for the club itself. The chicken and the ghast start in the youth team. So if you're wondering why there are many mobs who missed out, I've been pretty limited. Out of those who are in the squad, some of the biggest stars include the Ender Dragon, who governs the end dimension and therefore is a goalkeeper. At center back, we have a Piglin Brute, who defends the Nether Bastions, and will do it at all costs. Next to him we have a Wolf, who will defend the player at all costs, or a Slime at right back, who jumps high, a Skeleton at left back, with a great ability to send long passes and shots. And in the middle, we have a Zombie, the most basic mob possible. The Evoker will work alongside him as a playmaker, as he assists the raids. He will have to partner with a Villager for once, who plays as a classic attacking midfielder and was chosen as a captain. Up front, we have a Baby Zombie, a super quick and tiny striker, who will make sure his opponents never catch a break. Our team is ready for the new season, and the media predict they will finish mid-table. All of the players have a current ability of 100 out of 200, which is slightly below the Swedish league average. And their potential ability is 200 out of 200, which basically can make them the best players in football history. The question is, what can Steve lead his mobs to? Despite a rough start and the real danger of going down, Steve kept his job and guided the mobs to a decent 7th place in the league. The club also took part in the Conference League qualifiers, the 3rd tier of European football, but Legia Warsaw from Poland knocked them out as soon as Hammarby joined. But the Baby Zombie already has an award to his name. He became a top scorer in the first time of asking, with 14 goals. It looks like Steve is using a classic 4-4-2 formation, with the Baby Zombie and Creeper as strikers. So no chicken jockey, unfortunately. But was the end of the last season's run just a fluke? Or is Steve building something bigger here? What we know is that no mobs made it to the Swedish Euro 2024 squad. But good news, some already got a chance in the senior national team. Unfortunately, this led them to a bit of complacency, because Hammarby started this season quite well, but fell to 11th at the end. Same story happened in the year 2025. The mobs started the season well, but fell down again, finishing on 8th. At least the Baby Zombie became a top scorer again. But there is a valid reason for that drop of form. The mobs won the Swedish Cup and qualified to play in the Europa League qualifiers, and almost reached the 3rd tier of continental football. But Dynamo Kiev from Ukraine was too strong for the mobs. However, this drop of form resulted in Steve being sent out to the overworld. He was sacked from Hammarby, because it really isn't a good thing to finish mid-table with the best club in the league. The new manager is Daniel Erlandsson. Can he lead the club to better results? Well, some of the mobs did make it to the World Cup squad. Their national team, Sweden, lost out to England on penalties in the round of 32, with the Baby Zombie missing a spot kick. But in the league, the mobs had a strong finish to the season and finished 2nd. The Ghast also got the most assists. This season was full of achievements that can be a foundation for Hammarby's success in the near future. And the Swedish Cup win against IF Elfsborg in 2027 is not the only piece of silverware. You guessed it, the mobs from Hammarby have finally won the Swedish league. Baby Zombie dominated the charts, becoming the top scorer, and the Ghast got the most assists. The cup win meant Hammarby will play in the Europa League qualifiers again, and this time they almost reached the Europa League stage. A loss to Rangers wasn't the end of the world. Hammarby will play in the Conference League and started it quite well. Hammarby not only went directly to the round of 16, but also beat Olympiacos from Greece. However, in the quarter-final, Brighton knocked our mobs out in extra time. And the Creeper was a little bit too temperamental. Good news, most mobs made it to the Euro 2028, in which Sweden got knocked out by Spain in the round of 16. Because Hammarby won the Swedish league title, they will play in the Champions League qualifiers, but got knocked out in the first hurdle and went all the way to the Conference League stage again. Just to score a single pointer, and they also lost the title to Göteborg. And I might know the issue. For whatever reason, the club does not register the mobs to European competitions. And I didn't understand why. This will only be the issue for one season though. Turns out, Football Manager cannot deal with 20-year-long contracts, and I had to extend them myself. But hey, at least the baby zombie smashed his way to the top scorer award, and Hammarby won another Swedish cup. Will our striker become one of the leaders of Hammarby's next European runs? He's among a bunch of players who are already world class. The mobs reached the Champions League playoff, but lost to Borussia Dortmund there. This means Hammarby will play in the Europa League, in which they won the league stage. But the European run affected the results in Sweden. Hammarby barely finished 4th in the league. Last season, Daniel Erlandsson was sent packing after losing the title. Now, Max Mulder met the same fate. But what about Steve? He joined a new club, GIF Sundsvall in the 2nd tier, and just won them promotion to the top flight. We will check up on his career at the end of the video. Under the new manager Jakob Nestrup in the Europa League, the mobs got past Bologna and Ajax to reach a semi-final against Villarreal. They unfortunately lost their first game 3-0, but could they stage a comeback at home? No. But hey, at least the Creeper scored. And soon after, the mobs won the cup, got another chance in the Europa League, where they finished the league phase in top 8, and absolutely demolished the Swedish Allsvenskan, going invincible. This season was already full of success, but will the mobs finally achieve European glory? They got past Genk from Belgium. However, Chelsea was a bit too strong. This didn't stop Hammarby from getting another title, this time with a single loss against Malmö. Hammarby also won the 5th Swedish Cup and finally played in the Champions League stage, from which they barely qualified for the playoffs, in which Arsenal knocked them out on penalties. Another cup win, this time on penalties, happened in 2032, after which all slots in the Swedish national team's starting 11, except for Kulusevski, were taken by the mobs for the Euros. Sweden won their group and then went past France and Germany. However, England on penalties was a bit too strong. Iron Golem and Guardian both missed their spot kicks. At least, Hammarby won the league, but this title wasn't that spectacular. Just like the Champions League campaign, because Hammarby got just knocked out in the league stage. Season 11 saw a baby zombie become a top scorer, which led Hammarby to another dominant league title and also a cup win. As usual, Hammarby took part in the Champions League and qualified directly to the round of 16. The Swedish side made a comeback win against Sporting Club de Portugal, but couldn't get past Inter in the quarter-final. Regardless, almost all mobs found their way to the World Cup squad for Sweden. The Swedes won their group in Japan, then they went past Mexico, Scotland on penalties, and Belgium to reach a semi-final against Germany, where the Shulkers saved 2 penalties to guide Sweden to the final against Italy. 8 mobs were part of the starting 11, and one of them scored. It was the Creeper, just 16 minutes in. The Swedes defended brilliantly, and that helped them win the World Cup itself, all thanks to Minecraft's most iconic mob. But at the start of the video, I said the ambition of the Hammarby team is to win the Champions League. Most of the players are world class now, and the Villager and Iron Golem became the new Messi and Ronaldo. There is no better moment to claim the trophy. Naturally, Hammarby won their 4th league and their 5th cup in a row, but it was nearly certain every year now. Hammarby finished the league stage in 2nd, but Arsenal became quite a villain of this challenge, as they knocked the mobs out. Season 13 brought another league title, this time an invincible one. No surprise when the Villager is the best player of all time. But still, in the Champions League, this time it was Benfica, knocking Hammarby out in the knockout playoff. Hammarby then took back the Swedish Cup in Season 14 and won yet another league title. The Champions League adventure finished in the quarter-final though. But wait, there's also a Club World Cup. No tension though, Hammarby lost to Benfica in the round of 16. And obviously domestically it was a double, just like a year later. Hammarby took revenge on Benfica for the Club World Cup defeat, but lost out to later winners Inter. The mobs are already in their 30s, so their attributes especially physical ones, will be on the decline very soon. They are running out of time. To potentially make sure the mobs will still walk away with something, they successfully defended the World Cup crown against Germany with goals from Baby Zombie and Piglin Brute. The mobs almost single-handedly raised the Swedish league up to 9th place in the competition reputation rankings and to 8th in the UEFA coefficient rankings. But there seems to be a glass ceiling for Hammarby. They again got a round of 16 exit, this time against Bayern. And yet another domestic double doesn't mean much anymore. Same story with season 18, and we have yet another Champions League knockout in the early knockout playoff round against Napoli. The Champions League dream may as well be over, confirmed by Tottenham knocking Hammarby out in the knockout playoff. And sure, Hammarby took part in the Club World Cup, even getting to the round of 16, but at this point, even the mob's domestic dominance was over. IFK Göteborg took the Swedish league title after 11 years of Hammarby's domination. This truly was the end of an era. Because our mobs are all 35 years old now, they have lost their physical attributes. They still know how to play, but they cannot adapt to the pace of the game anymore, to the point where the Creeper has now become a center-back. Some mobs still found their way to the World Cup squad, and in the last dance there, Argentina knocked them out in the second round. In the Swedish competitions, the mobs achieved their final piece of glory, winning the Swedish Cup on penalties over BK Häcken. However, in the league, despite still being considered the league's best team, the mobs could only finish 6th. This means their final chance for European glory is now. In the 2042-43 season, Hammarby still went on a final push and advanced to the Champions League stage. Unfortunately, their win there against Stuttgart was the mob's final moment of magic, as in 6 months they will move to Real Madrid. Reaching the Champions League was difficult, and unfortunately we could say the mobs failed the challenge. But I must say, I think it was a success. Sure, Hammarby did not win their dream Champions League trophy. 2 quarterfinals was the closest the mobs got to it, and we can also add 1 Europa League semi-final into the notable achievements list. But the mobs absolutely demolished the domestic competitions, winning 12 titles, 11 in a row, and 14 Swedish Cups. They also massively helped the Swedish national team, with which the mobs won 2 World Cups, doing something the real-life Swedes were so close to achieving in the past, but just couldn't find the winning edge. The Shulker, our goalkeeper, got the most appearances, right ahead of the Blaze and both Zombies. But surprisingly, it was the Wither who became the top scorer, with 340 goals to his name. Now I understand why he is going after every mob that exists. And for those wondering what happened to Steve and Alex, the final sign of Steve we have comes from the year 2039, and the last instance of him managing a club comes from 2032, when he got relegated with Norrköping. Meanwhile, Alex went her own way, and now is an assistant manager in Göteborg. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And whilst you're here, may I recommend you check out how I went to a tiny island close to Sweden and took charge of a club from there. In Football Manager, of course. That video is on your screen right now.